Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Lecciones, trustee at the Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands, assistant professor at the College of Architecture at UP Diliman, and architect of the Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park Wetland Center. I'll be talking about designing the Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park, specifically the Wetland Center Wave and Strata as case studies. My presentation is outlined as follows: a short introduction to wetland centers, the reasoning behind the Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park project, creating a design team, collaborating with partners, the design process, challenges, strengths, and lessons learned, and finally, tips. Let's begin with wetland centers. Wetland educational centers, or just wetland centers for short, is any place where there is interaction between people and wildlife, and SCPWW activity occurs in support of wetland conservation. SCPWW, a term from the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, is short for communication, capacity building, education, participation, and awareness. The Ramsar has identified wetland centers as key locations for promoting the principles of wetland conservation and wise use through SCPWW activities. Why do we want a wetland center? Because they will be the prime venue for creating public awareness about the importance of wetlands and its functions and services. And because the wetland center will provide experiential learning opportunities for the public to learn about wetlands through SCPWW activities. Traditionally, wetland centers are comprised of the following: a wetland site with associated interpretative signage, trails, exhibitory, and a dedicated visitor center building that tells stories about wetlands, including the specific wetland in question, their biodiversity, and conservation. The picture you are seeing is the Barnes Wetland Center, also called the Wildfowl and Wetland Trust London Wetland Center. It's literally in the middle of London, providing central London with a space for nature, a safe haven of wide open space where city dwellers can come up close and personal with wetland habitats and the life within wetlands. There are many types of wetland centers across the world, all with their own different configurations. They can be a collection of biological artifacts, garden museums, science center, and cultural heritage, or any combination thereof. They may show important wildlife and landscape features as part of the integrated management of urban water catchments. They also range from centers attached to particular sites to buildings that tell stories about entire wetland, urban catchments, river basins, or appropriate whole landscape and ecosystem approaches to wetland conservation. Hong Kong Wetland Center above, situated right next to their high-density residential towers, combines both a science center and a wetland museum together. Meanwhile, Guandu Nature Park below, also situated around bustling urbanization in northern Taipei, was once a farming district and is now a place for arts, culture, science, agricultural research, and more. Wetland centers are inclusive and offer access to all. They offer exposure to real life in safe surroundings. This is vital where people are increasingly alienated from nature through prescriptive school-based curricula, health and safety fears, litigious societies, and the dominance of social media. There are many wetland centers worldwide. Between them, they offer amazing natural and cultural havens such as wildlife and heritage spectacles, landscape features, conservation and sustainability, and wise use centers, visitor attractions, and ecotourism venues operated as sites of public learning, access to green space, and biodiversity and heritage conservation. They also are opportunities for out-of-classroom learning for schools and create a sense of place and resulting connection to nature. Wetland centers are primary vehicles for raising awareness, focusing experience, and catalyzing environmental action on behalf of wetlands. There's a whole range of models all over the world. Wetland centers across the world connect people with nature and raise their awareness of wetland values and sustainable lifestyles. They range from high-tech centers designed to welcome significant numbers of visitors to simple non-staffed centers giving small numbers of people a limited but effective wetland SCPWW experience. Two components are needed for wetland centers: hardware and software. Hardware are interpretive media that do not involve people. The core hardware is the wetland itself, the natural and created wetlands and associated landscape. Buildings are important interpretative opportunities. Not only do they house a lot of exhibitions, their design can convey interpretative messages. Others are hides, boardwalks, public art, lifestyles, models, exhibitories, and others. Software, on the other hand, are interpretative media involving people. They can be learning modules such as ecocamps, entertainment, annual programs and events, and other activities. Interpretation is a process by and through which wetland centers can excite and connect visitors to nature. Interpretation is revelation based on information. The communication process designed to reveal meanings and relationships of our culture and natural heritage to visitors through first-hand experiences with objects, living things, landscapes, or sites. Interpretation is a broad-based process that draws from learning, education, design, ecological, and marketing professionals. It involves and uses the expertise of all its staff and volunteers. And that brings us to the Las Piñas Parañaque Wetland Park. It is a former reclamation site along coastal road in Las Piñas and Parañaque, comprised of two main islands, Freedom and Long Island, covering 182 hectares. The habitat supports a wide variety of plants and animals, including 80 species of birds, 3 of which are vulnerable, and about 1% of the total global population of the black-winged stilt. In 2013, the DNR NCR approached the SCPW regarding the designs for a wetland center at the LPPPWP. The SCPW had already conducted 3 wetland center design competitions at this point. The following year, a meeting was held with Senator Cynthia Villar to firm up the partnership for the designs for the wetland center at LPPPWP for submission to TIEZA for funding. Creating a team was the first order of business for the new project. A pro bono design team composed of myself as team leader handling architecture, Architect Reyes handling landscape architecture and environmental planning, Architect Dorotan handling sustainable design, Dr. Devanadera handling environmental engineering, Architect Grace Montemayor who covered lighting design, and now Architect Abigail Areja as a junior designer comprised the design team. All these individuals were not only experts in their own field, but had experience volunteering their time and expertise for other causes. In other words, they brought as much as their hearts and passions with them as their intelligence to the project. If we were going to develop a design that would not only have to be approved by authorities, but also acceptable to the wider community, working together with partners was an essential part of the design process. Here we had to keep in close coordination with the members of then LPPPWP Management Council, as well as other national and international agencies that helped us fine-tune the design according to each of these agencies' requirements and preferences. The next step was to make a plan. It was important that a plan was made so that we can keep track of everything we wanted to accomplish, as well as gauge our progress against time. It wasn't necessary that we followed each and every step of the work plan. Sometimes we had to be flexible, especially with the number of partners we needed to get input from, as well as from actors we needed approval from. Not even including each design team member's own schedules, but the important thing was that the schedule kept moving forward. Progress was made, and that this progress was transparently reported to all stakeholders. It is also important to be inspired. The design team not only conducted site visits to the wetland park, but the learning trip was sponsored by Senator Cynthia A. Villar to visit wetland centers in China. Alternatively, there are many resources on the internet that can provide information on other wetland centers across the world. Many of these are presented in new media formats that allow for an immersive experience. Something that we had to deal with, which you are not necessarily have to, however, you are encouraged to consider it, was budget. The project had to fit within budget parameters. As in many architectural design projects, budgets will never fit to translate the entirety of the vision of the architect. and thus phasing was introduced. This allows for the operation of the Wetland Center while it is still being upgraded. Think of this approach when your team designs a wetland center, since most often than not, the budgets will be limited, but the aspirations and the vision is not. And we want visionary yet attainable designs. An important aspect of the Wetland Center, which has been covered by Mr. Rostron, is the SCPW function of the structure. And therefore, this was something that the design team held as a core principle of the design from the very start. We wanted to make the structures tell the story of the wetland park, both of its past, its present, and its future. Key pieces of literature used as reference for the design included the framework plan for the coastal lagoons of Las Piñas and Parañaque, and the handbook on best practices for the planning, design, and operation of wetland education centers. The framework plan provided the context for the building site, social, environmental, political factors, and identified zones for strict protection, recreation, and sustainable use. The handbook, on the other hand, is a comprehensive reference for planning and development of a wetland center. It provides guidance on master planning, stakeholder engagement, and even team building. Chapters that were useful for our team included those on financial sustainability and SCPW programming. Others included the importance of volunteer work, such as those being rendered by the pro bono design team, and many aspects of introducing sustainable design into wetland centers. Some practical guidance on this included, for environmental factors, considering renewable energy sources, using nature-based solutions, circular economy principles, and green roofs. For social factors, considering different types of barriers, sensory, physical, intellectual, language, and social and cultural. And for economic, balancing short-term costs and long-term benefits, keeping aligned with the vision for the center, and making use of local partnerships and volunteers. Other important parts included making the decision to include sustainability at the earliest stages of the design process, focusing on long-term benefits, integrating the social, environmental, and economic areas, using local sustainable material, and embedding a message of sustainability in the design with an international framework. Here, the team used the sustainability framework provided by LEED, or the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. The final design concept included three major areas, one focusing on Filipino culture and design, another on ethics in context, and another on SCPW. Overall, we wanted the structures to be evidently Filipino, yet bold and exciting. The design team wanted to use the natural forms found on the site, as well as anecdotes from its past history, as a means to respect and highlight the development narrative that the community underwent. We also wanted to ensure that we minimize the impact of the development on the site while looking at the positive future. These are just among some of the targets we had. From the design concept, we filtered them through what we thought were reachable targets in the LEED standard for new construction. The final space requirements for the project included a visitor center, admin office, library, museum, cafeteria, labs, an auditorium, lobbies and exhibitory spaces, view towers, bird hides, and boardwalks. We decided to place all the spaces sans the view tower, bird hides, and boardwalks into two structures that were close by to each other to minimize development impact. These were the Wetland Center Wave and Strata. The planning for the sites, therefore, had the majority of spaces at a core area where impact can be better managed and reduced, and with only necessary support infrastructure in other sites. This shows the Wetland Center Complex main site, where the wetland wave and strata are located, as well as nearby auxiliary facilities, such as a constructed wetland and bamboo setum. The Wetland Center Complex itself covers about 1 hectare, with building footprints at a maximum of 1,500 square meters. The complex is comprised of the main structures, wetland wave and strata, and supporting infrastructure such as a central plaza, a boardwalk, viewing deck, open amphitheater, comfort rooms, bicycle racks, pathways, and vehicular drop-off, among others. Other components of the wetland park include a freedom arc to signify the entrance to the park. This is a design for a smaller bird hide, fit for 3 adults and 4 kids. This is a design for a larger bird hide for 20 adults and 6 kids. Here we have a design for a view tower, which can accommodate 80 adults and 20 kids. This is the wetland wave, whose inspiration was the waves formed by the water next to the wetland park. It serves as the main gateway to the Wetland Center complex and is the site for exhibition and open-air lecture spaces, a ticketing office, and a souvenir shop and cafe. This is the Wetland Center strata, whose inspiration was the reclamation itself. Here is where the majority of visitors will be staying, which can hold more than 500 individuals in and around its periphery. This houses on the first floor an auditorium, museum, library, cafeteria, comfort rooms, and on the second floor offices. It is connected to the wetland wave by a central plaza. Together, all these spaces enable crowd management while a suitable number of visitors are on field taking in the nature trails. The design team also produced wayfinding and environmental design graphics. Here are some of the examples of them. Here are landscape architecture presentations for the drop-off and signage. Here are landscape architecture presentations for the amphitheater area. You can also see a cutaway view of the Wetland Center wave and the drop-off area. And this shows the central plaza on the left, the wetland strata in the center, boardwalks and view decks on the right. The design team's work did not end with just the design, but included having to assist in many activities related to it, including with Senator Villar and her SCPW activities at the Senate, such as during the Wetland Wonders exhibit in 2017. And also being present at activities at the Wetland Park to show our support. The picture on the left shows the winners from the Wetland Park logo design competition, from which the current official logo of the park, as shown above, was taken. Here are some pictures of the construction of the Wetland Center complex. This is the Wetland Center wave. Construction began in April 2017 and completed its first phase in September 2017. This was fully funded by Senator Villar, who donated the shell in time for hosting high-level delegations from different countries, attending the 12th session of Conference of Parties for the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. The Wetland Center strata began construction in February 2019 and completed the first phase in September 2019. This was also funded by Senators Cynthia Villar. Although these are just the first phase construction of the Wetland Center complex, these shells have already been used for many different types of SCPW activities in the wetland park. Partners are brought to the site so that they may donate funds for its completion and for its eventual public operation. Here are some pictures from events celebrated at the wetland park, including World Wetlands Day, Earth Day, World Ocean Day, World Migratory Bird Day, Urban October, and others. Some challenges are managing the design team's time and resources. It pays to be mindful of others' schedule and to recognize and use skills of partners to ease workload. In a team, there will always be a champion who can carry the team during hard parts of the work. Have a strong vision and cling to it so that the team can keep anchored. Another challenge is managing different requirements and interests from stakeholders. Here, you can identify areas of synergy to strengthen social inclusion and participation. Be cognizant of the facilities you choose to design, as they will need to be maintained. Thus, there is a financial burden factor that should be taken into account. Lastly, always find ways to reduce the impact of your structures. Use nature-based solutions, blue-green infrastructure, and other new technologies, not only to enhance not only environmental sustainability, but also other aspects of sustainability, such as public health, mental well-being, and others. Final tips: have fun and enjoy the learning experience. Even if you haven't done much progress, meet regularly to keep momentum. And always take inspiration from nature itself. So thank you for your time, and I hope you were inspired and learned something new from this presentation.